Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hi, folks. Welcome again to the Pigskin Past. I'm your host, Joe Zagorski, and tonight we're remembering the Unheralded Games Part 4. Now, this series on Unheralded NFL Games attempts to recall a game that stands out for a particular team. When talking about the Miami Dolphins, well, there's plenty of games to choose from that are still being talked about today. Both of their Super Bowl victories come to mind, and perhaps their epic Christmas Day victory in the AFC Playoffs over the Kansas City Chiefs in 1971, the infamous longest game. And of course, who could forget that Hook and Lateral playoff game versus San Diego in 1981? But I decided to focus on a game from 1970 as one of the most unheralded games of the Dolphins' past. Ask any Dolphins fan when they played their very first playoff game and who they played in that game, and you're likely to get a blank stare. That is because few people ever recall the game that this Pigskin Past program is about. The date was December 27th, 1970 to be precise. Miami would play Oakland at the Oakland Coliseum. It had rained all during the day prior to game day, and the field was not covered, nor had the field dried. As a result, both teams would be playing this playoff matchup on a bog, a quagmire if you will. Both teams were affected equally, as both teams had their share of fast wide receivers who would fail to get decent traction all game long. Now, Don Shula was in his first year in 1970 as the Dolphins head coach. He managed to get them a wild card berth in his very first year in Miami with a pretty impressive 10-4 record. Now, Shula had been to many playoff games in his past, but this would be his very first one in the history of the Dolphins. They were easily one of the youngest teams in all of pro football, but Coach Shula had them growing up pretty rapidly. They perhaps stunned the more experienced Raiders by jumping out to a 7-0 lead early in the second quarter when Miami quarterback Bob Greasy hit star wide receiver Paul Warfield across the middle on a slant pattern for a 16-yard touchdown. Oakland tied the game just before halftime when Fred Biletnikoff did the same thing. He snared a 22-yard pass from Raiders signal caller Darryl LaMonica. The second half of this game would determine which team had the resolve to advance to the AFC Championship game the following week. It was a tight matchup such as this, and as it is often the case, a key mistake which tells the tale of who wins and who loses a type of game like this. That's exactly what happened in the third quarter. Bob Greasy threw only one interception in this game, but it was easily the costliest mistake of the year for him. Greasy threw to the far sideline, but Oakland cornerback Willie Brown stepped in front of the intended receiver, made the interception, then raced 50 yards untouched for a big Raiders touchdown. That's exactly what Oakland needed, a chance to take the lead and gain some momentum on their foes from the Sunshine State. Now, the Raiders followed that gift up with another touchdown. It occurred in the fourth quarter when LaMonica threw caution to the wind and heaved a long, deep pass to wide receiver Rod Sherman, who was sprinting down the near sideline on a fly pattern. Sherman somehow managed to get a step ahead of younger and probably faster Miami cornerback Curtis Johnson. Sherman snared the ball without breaking stride, and then for the rest of the way into the end zone he ran. Oakland now owned a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. Sounds like victory's almost theirs, doesn't it? Well, not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso always says. Coach Shula would have made the offseason pure hell for his players if they did not try to come back as best they could in this game. And come back they did. Journeyman Miami wide receiver Willie Richardson caught only 2 passes in this game, but one of them was good for a fourth quarter touchdown from 7 yards out. The Dolphins were now only trailing by just a 21-14 score. Unfortunately for Shula and his Dolphins, they were unable to recover their subsequent onside kickoff attempt after Richardson's score, and the game ended. The Raiders would once again advance to another championship game, while Miami would go back to Florida nursing their wounds. But the Dolphins gained a lot of experience in this, their forever first ever playoff game. It would be an experience that would take them further during the next few years, all the way to the Super Bowl. Once again, folks, thanks for joining us again for Pigskin Past. I'm Joe Zagorski, signing out.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagorski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.